You would not believe how Stephen Colbert and his buddy Jon Stewart responded to his cancellation. Cry me a river. Would you grow up, you children? Put on your big boy pants and take it like a man. This is absurd. Many of us have had very public cancellations, and some were absolutely fucking brutal. And we didn't invite all our friends to come cry on the set and say, poor, poor her, poor, poor him. American democracy will not be the same. Some of us took it like professionals, then picked ourselves up, dusted ourselves off, and moved on with life. Is this how it's going to be for the next year? Watching this crybaby try to play the victim that his show got canceled? Grow up. It's called television, you toddler. Here to discuss it, one of our EJs pair, Emily Jashinsky, host of After Party on the MK Media Podcast Network. Thank God this will never happen to you, Emily Jashinsky, on the MK Media Podcast Network. But I'm sure if it ever did, you wouldn't take it like an infant in the crib. This is absurd, this man.
Hiring a gospel choir. Did you see Jon Stewart? He hired like a gospel choir to sing behind him and said F you to Donald Trump, or like F off to Donald Trump, because they think the outpouring of Democrats saying thank you to Stephen Colbert for, quote, like standing up to power or speaking truth to power. There were like more than 5 Democratic politicians posting that in unison. Funny how that happens over the last several days. And hilariously, they see themselves genuinely as the like protagonists of the story, as though Stephen Colbert wasn't, according to Puck News, losing $40 million a year. That show was apparently losing $40 million a year, and you can see how the math doesn't math for the I was going to say the Colbert Report, but for the show, because I mean you can't have overhead like an old late night show in 2025. It doesn't make sense when you're getting 3 million people a night. It's an absurd equation, and so to act like this is there. No, and to act like this is all because Paramount has a merger in front of Donald Trump, which true, they do. The Trump administration is looking at the Paramount-Skydance merger, but to act like that's why they pulled the plug on Colbert, it's insane. They're actually getting rid of the entire franchise, not just the host.
Right. Why wouldn't you just replace the host? And by the way, if Trump were in there bargaining for the summary firing of people on CBS airwaves who are terrible to him and don't like him, there'd be no one left. Literally, who would be left? Norah O'Donnell would have to go entirely. So would that Margaret Brennan. So would Gayle King. I mean, if Trump were in there bargaining for like, these are the people who have to go, Colbert is an antagonist, but is he any worse than these others I've named? Margaret Brennan is out there trying to skewer, ineffectively though, his top administration officials every week. She tried to tank a vice presidential debate in favor of the Dems, as did Norah O'Donnell. So it's like, I don't know, there'd be a lot of targets that I'd probably want to take care of before I got rid of this loser in late night who nobody's watching. By the way, so they say his show caused that it was losing $40 million a year. Can I tell you something? The Kelly File, this is back in 2014 through 17, and they have 100 employees on this thing. For 100 employees, they lose $40 million a year. On the Kelly File, we had 9 producers. That's it. And maybe a handful of tech staff, maybe 5. So let's call it 15, round up. And we made $100 million a year on that show. Just the Kelly File brought in $100 million a year in revenue. This guy has 100 employees. So almost 10 times what I had, and he's losing $40 million. That's what gets you fired, you loser. It's unbelievable that they kept him on the air at all. Based on this, like as long as they have. And they're like, oh, I was number 1 in late night. Okay, you were number 1 by 1,000. You were beating Jimmy Kimmel in the overall number by 1,000. You were losing in the advertiser key demo from 18 to 49-year-olds to Jimmy Kimmel. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Fallon is no longer on the board. He might no longer be with us for as long as I know, because literally, as Roger Ailes once said about Paula Zahn, you could put a dead raccoon in his chair and get the same ratings that Jimmy Fallon's getting. Okay, but he wasn't number 1 in the key advertiser friendly demo. And irrespective of that, all the numbers had fallen almost 50% just since 2018. No one's watching late night television anymore. It's a failed business model.
Right, and that's why they're getting rid of the whole franchise. So for Colbert and Stewart to slot themselves into these roles as protagonists against the big bad corporate overlord and the Trump administration is just like, it is completely laughable. And for Democrats to do the same is completely laughable. I mean, laughable. It's obviously cynical, but at the same time, it's just like, give me a break. They're getting rid of the entire show, not just Colbert. There are all kinds of different people at CBS who are bad, but Colbert is even losing on digital. I mean, he can be the number one on late night, even if he's like losing in the demo, but like Fallon does better than him on digital, according to reports. Like he's of all the late night hosts, the one that does most poorly on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and those platforms, which is not surprising at all, because my new theory on why we have all of these like Gen X politicians flocking to Colbert's defense on the left, you know, your Chris Murphy, Hakeem Jeffries, it's because
Elizabeth Warren.
She might be a boomer. I don't know, but boomers count in this too. But Colbert and Stewart remind them of this time period when people felt like they had this moral energy around resistance to the Bush administration, and there was something really edgy about tuning into Comedy Central late night back in like 2009 or 2007. That it just makes them. It's this wave of nostalgia to look like you're standing up and standing by Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart, who are honestly
you
shells.
missed it.
They're
it's
shells
like these losers who go out there
anyway.
and like march on Harvard's campus. You missed the civil rights era. Sorry, you weren't around for it. You're cosplaying now. No one's believing you. You're not making any sort of a difference. Steve Krakauer corrects me. There are 200 employees on Colbert's show. 200. Literally, we had 9 producers to produce the highest rated show in all of cable news in the key advertiser friendly demo, 25 to 54 on cable news with the Kelly File. I had 9 producers. And like I say, just a handful of techs. For $100 million a year, that show netted. This show's losing $40 million a year with 200 employees. It's a loser. What you call that in the kids' talk is a loser. It's a hard loser. And he can't accept it. And like just one other thing. Mm-hmm. Jon Stewart. I love to talk about this, okay? What a pathetic has-been. He had his role during the heyday. He was very relevant for a time. That time has passed, and all of his ratings support my statement, okay? Some of us were able to reinvent ourselves after we left the cable news universe, and some of us weren't. So he came back still thinking he'd be the king of the cool kids, and he's had absolutely middling ratings. Nobody's watching him. And so he decided to bring back some of his old tricks. Believe me, I've been on the receiving end of his little gospel choir. He's done more hit pieces on me than anybody I can think of that has attacked me. Time and time again, when I just had my babies, I'd be nursing them on my couch, and he would drop yet another hit piece on me because I was a threat on Fox News. And he was afraid of me. He didn't want my message getting out there. He wanted to, diminish me and my shows in their crib. That failed too. Anyway, so there was speculation yesterday in the podcast universe. Bill Simmons had on Matthew Bellany of Puck News, formerly Hollywood Reporter, and they openly wondered whether when Jon Stewart went on the air Monday night, he would quit because he was so outraged over the deep wrong that had been done to his good friend Stephen Colbert, clearly fired over politics. And so there was some anticipation. They both said they were going to watch Stewart live that night to see whether he would quit and make a point that this was deeply immoral, so much so that he would sacrifice the millions and the fame, air quotes, that he's getting from his reappearance on Mondays on The Daily Show. And instead, this is what we got.
This ain't the time to shrink. Not the time. This is the time to fight. Time to fight. This is the time to rise up. You're afraid, and you protect your bottom line. I've got but one thing to say. Just one little phrase. You tell them. Go fuck yourself! Go fuck yourself! Go fuck yourself! Go fuck yourself! Fuck yourself! Just go fuck yourself! Everybody! Fuck yourself! Just go fuck yourself! Fuck yourself! Just go fuck yourself! Fuck
So it was a no. He did not forego his millions of dollars or his ridiculous do-nothing post on The Daily Show. Instead, he chose himself, and he chose to go with a profanity-laced rant against the company that owns Comedy Central, Paramount, with whom this merger is happening. They also own CBS. And this came as no surprise to me because he's always been all about himself. However, I did not expect that he would really kind of embrace the same mistakes Oprah Winfrey has embraced that have made her an official has-been too, where they take their old shtick that worked 20 years ago, try to revive it in their older bodies with their gray hair, and think in the modern day media environment, which you know better than anybody, Emily, doesn't work. You cannot, as a 60-year-old dude, whatever Jon Stewart is, he's around there, or in Oprah's case, 70-something, come out and still pull off the, I am shouting at people, I will be heard. You look old and weird, and it's too jarring. It no longer works. And so it's not surprising to me, because I don't watch his show, that he too is failing and that he felt the need to hold on to his one little loser show a week because who else would hire that?
You know, that's kind of interesting because the podcast version of Jon Stewart is different than that. And so to have that actually be in his life and him not sort of understand the distinctions, I think is pretty interesting. The other thing I'll add on that is what you just described and what we just watched, unfortunately, is obviously also tiresome, but it's also the type of thing that people saw as really avant-garde in, again, like 2007, because you had someone on this cable network speaking to younger Americans. He was doing the kind of anti-network late night show thing, like the anti-Tonight Show type of thing over on Comedy Central. And he was, using profanity. He was being much more directly political than the late night hosts were. And that felt at the time novel and fresh and edgy. And now it feels like another shtick instead of something that's honest and authentic. It feels like this overproduced, like to act like you're speaking truth to corporate power on a corporate platform by doing the same shtick you've been doing for 20 years. It obviously does not have any of the same edge or novelty that it had back then, but he doesn't realize it. I think that is actually really interesting.
You're so right. It's so true. He would have been so much better off if he had just opened up with just him at the desk, looking at the camera and just speaking extemporaneously. Like, I'm really distressed over this. This is why. This is what I think. These are the things. I've known this guy for this long. Here's my own experience and what parallels. Like, people would have watched that. It would have been gripping. People, on his side at least, would have found it really interesting. But he went back to the gospel choir is one of his favorite tools. He just looks like a fool. Now he's 62. Jumping and dancing and screaming at us in front of it. He looks old, dare I say, elderly. Since President Trump was sworn in, his administration has made enormous progress at a breakneck pace. But don't forget, while they're moving mountains for the good of the nation, you've got your own personal savings to worry about. And one of the best ways to look after your savings is through diversification, particularly with gold, like from Birch Gold Group. In the past 12 months, the value of gold has increased by 40%. OMG. Central banks continue to bolster demand for gold by buying in record quantities. Global instability and tension is high, and Birch Gold makes owning physical gold extremely easy. Easily convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or buy some to store in your home safe. Just text MK to the number 989898 and Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, take control of your savings today. Text MK to the number 989898. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.